everyone, my name is Josiah Anesta. Today I will be analyzing Belle from Beauty and the Beast through a psychological lens. Now, on the surface, Belle, our main character, is a brave, intelligent, and compassionate young woman, but her emotional journey inside the Beast castles raises questions about whether she shows signs of Stockholm Syndrome, a condition sometimes seen in kidnapping or hostage situations where the victim begins to feel affection, loyalty, and sometimes even falling in love with their captor. Now, for those who have not seen the film, Beauty and the Beast takes place in a small rural France village around the 18th century. Now, in this case, Belle is a woman who actually feels very isolated from the rest of her peers. And this is due to the fact that she's considered odd for the things that she enjoys: books, dreaming of adventures that are out of the ordinary for women in this century, but specifically her village. Now, her father, on the other hand, is a famous inventor, Maurice, and the story begins when he's coming back from a convention of sorts, and this leads him to get imprisoned by the beast. When Belle does find this out, she actually goes and sacrifices her freedom to take his place, allowing her father to be free. Now, at first, she is terrified. The beast yells, controls her movements, and even locks her in a cell at one point, and then eventually transfers her to a room. But as time passes in the film, he begins to show kindness, soften his tone and behaviors with her, and even showing vulnerability. Now, Belle's fears turns into empathy and eventually love for the creature. Now, specifically Stockholm Syndrome, psychologists define this condition as a trauma bonding response that occurs when a victim starts identifying with, defending, and again, in this case, falling in love with their abuser. According to research published in Behavioral Sciences and the Law by Namrick in 2008, Stockholm Syndrome often emerges when three conditions are met: perceived threat to survival, small acts of kindness from the captor, and isolation from outside perspectives and individuals. And Belle actually fits this um, three conditions to a T. She's first imprisoned and fears for her life early on in the film, and is forbidden to leave the castle grounds. And while the beast alternates between being kind and tender later in the film, he does also have a fits of rage when Belle disobeys him, such as going into the forbidden parts of the castle, and he's shown to provide for her, such as giving her a library, saving her from wolves, which confuses her sense of safety in this case. And last but not least, she is completely isolated in this castle. The only thing she has to talk to are the magical furniture around her, which later turns out to be the people who originally lived in that castle before the curse. Now, um, while we also see symptoms of trauma bonding, there are cycles of fear and relief create this emotional dependence, a pattern described in Dutton and Painter in studies in 1993 on abusive relationships. While Belle also shows resilience and independence, her shift from captive to caretaker to lover demonstrates the psychological complexity that Stockholm Syndrome captures. Now, if we're talking treatment, if Belle was a real person in today's standards, treatment would focus on rebuilding autonomy and processing trauma. A couple different ways that psychologists would kind of pursue this: a couple of forms of therapy, such as trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, which would help challenge beliefs like he changed because of me, his anger was my fault, thoughts along these lines. Another type of way is something called EMDR therapy. This is also called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, which would help her reprocess the memories of captivity without having the victim relive the fear in this situation. We can also go the route of medication while concurrent to therapy, such as SSRIs, such as sertraline and fluoxetine, which are used to help manage anxiety, depression, and intrusive thoughts common in prolonged trauma. Another way that if Belle was a real person today, that could help her is support groups, specifically for survivors of abuse, would help her reconnect with others in similar situations as her and help her rebuild healthy boundaries in a relationship, not just romantically, but in friends as well, and helping her build this sort of community. Now, these treatments are evidence based and shown to reduce trauma symptoms in studies like Shapiro's 2017 work on EMDR and Foa and Rothburn's 1998 research on CBT for post traumatic stress disorder, which also kind of coincides with Stockholm syndrome as well in abuse victims. Um, in the end, Belle's story isn't just a fairy tale of love. It's also a case study of how isolation, fear, and compassion can intertwine to form these trauma bonds. Now, while Disney did give us a happy ending, real life Beauty and the Beast stories often require a deep emotional healing and professional care. Understanding her experience through psychology helps us see how these beloved characters can reflect real human struggles with trauma and attachment. I just want to say thank you for listening to this presentation, and you all have a wonderful day.